Hello and welcome to another episode of the Empowered Hormones podcast. I'm your host, Sheridan Decker, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. Now, I've had a couple weeks off the podcast, just been busy with back-end work stuff. We've been doing a lot of upgrades to the root cause program. So for those who don't know how I work, it is one-on-one consults inside a 6-month, what I call the root cause program. So we work holistically with women to get to the root cause of their gut dysfunction, their hormone dysfunction, what's going on with their immune system, hair, skin, nails, sex drive, all the things, vaginal microbiome testing. So we do quite a comprehensive range of things inside of there, which I just love. And the reason I created it as a 6-month program is simply because women weren't getting long-term results in one-on-one consults. And I found it quite frustrating to be like doing that one consult and then like them going away and trying a few things and having a lot of questions, and then life got in the way, and then they come back and it's forth and there's no continuity with it. Whereas this way, they come in, they're ready to commit, they want to heal, they got direct one-on-one access to us all the time, as well as obviously their calls. It's just really fun, great way to work with women. Anyway, side rant, been working on that. What else have I been doing? High rocks training twice a day, which has been quite intense, but super fun, and body is actually handling it really well. I don't know why I'm doing high rocks. I just decided, this is kind of how I roll, I just decided this was something I was going to do. I think it was like maybe a month ago I started training for it. I was going to kind of just wing it. I was like, oh yeah, high rocks would be cool. Like I could do high rocks. And I needed a focus with my training. Last year, I sort of got back into strength training a bit when I got back from Newcastle and moved back to Margaret River in WA. And then I was doing a lot of trail running and riding over summer, which I just love, but then was like, I want to do something different. I'm kind of a little bit bored with strength training. So then I had quite a few clients signing up to high rocks. I was like, stuff it, gonna do high rocks. Anyway, it's been really fun. It's just a lot of volume. I've never trained this kind of volume before. Even when I did CrossFit, it still wasn't to this degree of volume. So it's been pretty cool, super fun, interesting workouts, really scientifically based around lactate thresholds and actually working to a proper training program, which is new for me. So I've been enjoying that. And then I'm also considering doing the Cape to Cape, which is a mountain bike race later this year as well. So again, just having those little focuses. And for anyone who's doing some kind of training, having a focus is so much more fun. It just gives you something to, well, obviously focus on, but to be excited about as well. And then you also know, and especially for my brain, it's a block thing. Like it's like, okay, it's 12 weeks or it's 8 weeks or it's whatever it is, and you're working towards a goal, which, as we know, gut stuff is the same. You want to be working towards something. And that's why when I work with women, it's like, okay, we're working towards getting the testing done. Now, when we've got the testing, we break that up into stages. And you'll see that come across in the podcast episode today about how I actually treat and heal a gut. It is a staged out process. You can't just go in and heal a gut and just hit it with all your supplements and dietary stuff and everything at once, because it just doesn't work. Now, today we are unpacking how to heal post antibiotics. Look, I'm not a fan of antibiotics. I think that's pretty fair and obvious to say. I'm in the functional medicine space, so that kind of goes without me clarifying it. But there is a time and a place for them. And there are times, so most commonly, I see women taking and using antibiotics for UTIs. So this is just the women I work with. This is where I sort of see it. UTIs, sometimes sinus and ear infections, sometimes the dentist if you're having operation, C-sections as well. I mean, I work with women sort of late 20s, early 30s through to 50, 60, 70s, but you're looking in that 30s where we're having a lot of babies, and obviously having C-sections as well is quite common. And then prior to working with me, I know a lot of women who've taken them for like acne, rosacea, dermatitis, so skin concerns as well, which Obviously, I'm against that when it is something that we don't need the antibiotics for. If it is a chronic UTI, amen, I have done that. I'm with you. No one wants to deal with that kind of symptoms. But here's how I look at it. Antibiotics is putting out a fire. They don't address why the fire started or how to rebuild post-fire. But they put out the hot, painful mess you found yourself in, and that is so, so important and something I really do encourage when it is A, life-threatening, B, putting you in a world of pain and you don't have the time for something else to kick in, okay? So there are time and place for it, absolutely. Do we take them for everything? No, we don't. And the reason for that is that studies showing that a single course of antibiotics, so like ballpark 7 to 14 days, maybe 7 to 10 days is probably our kind of standard range, unless you're on low dose long-term antibiotics for something and then you've got a different kind of issue you're dealing with. But that can reduce microbiome diversity up to 30%. Some species take, weeks or months to recover, and some, particularly the ones we're going to chat about today, Bifidobacter and Lactobacillus, they may not actually return without active intervention. So some of these disruptions, like I said, 3, 6, 12 months before the species start to be able to grow back and get enough food out your diet to feed them. Others, you're just not going to get enough food. You can't consume enough of that food to actually get them back up to the levels they should be. So what does that actually mean if you're wiping those good species as well as the bad stuff? Does that mean you're going to feel awful for 6 months? No, not necessarily. But here's 2 things to really consider. 1, how was your gut before the antibiotics? Because 9 times out of 10, women are taking them for something like UTI, for example, but they already had IBS, or they're going to the dentist, but they already had IBS. So you already have an underlying dysbiosis, which you're now flicking it more in the favor of that inflammatory-based bacteria because you're wiping more of the good gut flora. Secondary, did you have gut symptoms? No. Okay. Are you going to develop gut symptoms post-antibiotics? Maybe, maybe not. Depends as to the tolerance of your gut, your diet, all those sort of external factors. Thirdly, just because you don't have gut symptoms doesn't necessarily mean you don't have a disrupted gut microbiome. So you kind of need to consider all those things when you have taken the antibiotics. Now, this is really important for active women to consider the impact of the antibiotics on their gut microbiome, because the underlying imbalance isn't just about digestion. It's about your nutrient absorption, it's about estrogen metabolism, it's about immune regulation, and even how efficiently you're recovering from training. My Hyrox recovery is so much better now that my gut is healthy. If you're bloated, constipated, gassy, not absorbing nutrients, not digesting foods well, you don't have fun training and you also have terrible recovery. The other thing to think about is antibiotics also mess with your gut-brain axis. So this is the primary communication between your brain and the digestive tract, or your enteric nervous system and central nervous system. This disruption can cause mood imbalances, and then that's when you get like your anxiety, low sort of grade depression, or just moodiness, sadness, lack of motivation. All those, what I would call top tier symptoms, do link back to that gut microbiome. And as an example, I see that when women come into the program, often they have really low mood, or they're just like, I'm super PMSy. And I'm like, it's not just PMS. Or they're perimenopause. They've been to their GP. Their GP's told them to go on anxiety or depression medication. They actually don't have sort of mental imbalance to a degree. They actually are just struggling with the hormone imbalance. So it's not always a neurotransmitter thing. Sometimes it's actually just estrogen and low progesterone. And that's really, really important to consider as well. And on top of that, those hormone imbalances are coming because they've got a gut imbalance. You're not going to have healthy hormones when you have constant IBS symptoms because you're just not clearing the estrogen and you're just not getting the nutrients to produce healthy progesterone as well. The other thing to consider is thrush. So your body naturally has a lot of bacteria and fungi, so say the candida, particularly mouth, gut, vagina. In a healthy state, the good bacteria actively control the yeast, okay? So they keep everything in balance. During antibiotic use, because the antibiotics can't distinguish between helpful and harmful bacteria, they wipe out your body's natural defense system, okay? So with no good bacteria left, fungus, yeast, it overgrows, and that is what gives you those thrush symptoms. So when we talk about fixing your gut post antibiotics, we're not just talking about no more bloating. We're talking about rebuilding that diversity. We're talking about rebuilding that immune system. We're talking about rebuilding that gut-brain axis, developing healthy mood. We're talking about hormone balance, estrogen metabolism, your recovery from training, healthy vaginal microbiome. So there's so many things to consider when you are taking a medication of that strength. Now, what you actually want to know today is what does this look like in practice? So there's 4 kind of things I consider when I'm thinking about restoring and healing a gut post antibiotics. Now, the first one is a removal style stage. Now, this is when you're looking at what's going on with your diet, but also what has happened to the gut microbiome. This is key. 1, if you already had gut dysbiosis pre-antibiotics. So if you had any gut stuff going on, you need to do these 4 things anyway, regardless of the antibiotics. And that's really important to note. You need to run a comprehensive microbiome stool test. You need to know, is there yeast in there? Is there dysbiosis in there? Is there inflammatory bacteria in there? Is there a leaky gut lining? Is there poor digestive capacity? Were you already low in bifidobacter and lactobacillus? So whether you're recovering from antibiotics or whether you're just a gassy, constipated, bloated gal, this is your first step, okay? So we can assess, we can remove what needs to, I guess, essentially be rebalanced in that gut microbiome. So what bacteria, what yeast, what parasites, use the correct herbal antimicrobials, use the correct digestive support to actually get these things out of the gut or get the numbers down. Sometimes we don't need to remove it. Sometimes we just need to rebalance it to a healthy level. Then secondly, replacing key nutrients is really important. So a lot of nutrients are like your magnesium, your Bs, your vitamin C, your zinc, and your fat-soluble vitamins, so A, E, D, K. These are all essential for the production of energy in the mitochondria. If you can't do this properly, so if you can't produce this kind of energy, you won't be able to go through healing and detoxification stages as well. So we need to, 1, have those key nutrients. 2, we need to replace and replenish digestive support. If you're low in zinc and low in B12, you're going to struggle with stomach acid. We also want to know what's your digestive capacity. Can you break down foods properly? How's your bowel production? Again, how's your fat, your protein, your carbohydrate digestion? If you cannot break these down, you end up feeding your SIBO or your inflammatory bacteria, which again sends you right back to that starting place where we're like, okay, we need to do some removal work. While we're doing the removal work, we need to replace some of these key processes. The other thing that I like to replace post-antibiotics, I would use a digestive support post-antibiotics. I would use magnesium, B vitamins, vitamin C. If I can't get them out of someone's diet, your fat-soluble, if you're eating a really solid animal-based diet, you would get them. Magnesium, I tend to supplement because most people are low in it. And Bs, it really depends if they're eating organ meats or not. But I do like to use short chain fatty acids. So biotin is a supplement I'll commonly use. There is a postbiotic supplement that combines biotic acid with calcium and magnesium. This is actually a pretty cool supplement. It's called CAL, MAG, BUTYRAT, biotin, and it serves as a primary energy source for the colon cells. So it does that, and that in turn supports the integrity of the intestinal lining, which helps prevent what we use, quote unquote, if you can see me, help prevent leaky gut. So you need to heal and seal that gut lining with adequate nutrients. That's step one, removing those inflammatory bacteria and also helping the body break down the food so that we don't impact the integrity of those cells in there. This then leads into your third step, repair. So we really want to heal that leaky gut lining with things like your zinc carnosine is really awesome. Aloe is great. Marshmallow, licorice can be good. Glutamine, an amino acid, is amazing for healing. Your essential fatty acids, your vitamin D. These I would focus on getting through the diet. So your slow cooked meats are really great. Your bone broth, your eggs, your animal proteins are all awesome. But I do, especially again, post antibiotics, remember your gut has taken a whack. I do like to use supplements here just for, I would say, 2 to 3 months, 8 to 12 weeks to really give you that kickstart. And then from there, make a conscious effort to focus on those healing, nourishing foods that are going to restore that gut lining. And then the one that people really struggle with. So we actually don't even generally do this in day-to-day life. So it's actually improved the microbiome. So re-inculate the microbiome. Now, again, you really need to distinguish here. Did I have IBS symptoms prior to the antibiotics, or are these new ones from the antibiotics? Because if they're new from the antibiotics, it is possible you've just wiped the good gut flora, and then you can go in with probiotics and prebiotics, and especially you can go in from a dietary point of view and be okay. If you had these symptoms prior, you 110% want to test first, because if you've got SIBO or gut imbalances, so if you've got a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or inflammatory sort of bacteria in the gut microbiome, probiotics and prebiotics may not be appropriate for you, especially if you already have that bacterial imbalance, and then you start adding in like kefir or sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, tempeh, kombucha, all these really great fermented foods which contain probiotics and B vitamins and digestive support. You know, these things are awesome, but in a gut that is already overgrown, they really are not appropriate for you. Again, post-antibiotics, if I had no gut symptoms, I would absolutely use them. I would use them 1 to 2 tablespoons a day in targeted small amounts to help establish a robust microbiome. I would not use them in a diagnosed SIBO case, and I wouldn't use them in someone who comes back with a large microbiome testing that's really overgrown. The probiotic use is very similar as well. So Lactobacillus rhamnosus, LGG, that supports a really balanced gut microbiome and normal healthy bowel movements. But again, if you're sensitive to histamine, if you have a lot going on in your gut, it may not be appropriate post-antibiotics. The other two that I really love to use is the bifidobactam, which supports that gut health after antibiotics use just by producing the short-chain fatty acids. So we chatted about that biotin earlier. The biotin is a quick fix, as in you can whack that in, but long-term, you want enough of that bifidobactam to support, as I said, that energy to colon cells, which are going to help repair that gut lining. The last one I will use, again, depending on the person and the case, Saccharomyces boulardii is a really great option. So it's not like standard probiotics. This yeast isn't actually affected by antibiotics, and sometimes I will take it during the antibiotic use, just away from the antibiotic, because it will help support that gut microbiome balance. So probiotics are great. Prebiotics are also really, really beneficial. Now, again, you can get prebiotics through food, and I would recommend them post antibiotics. But if you have had gut issues, they are going to make it worse, right? Things like oats, asparagus, onion, garlic, chicory root, they are all really high FODMAP foods, is what we call. So anyone who has done any kind of IBS diet knows that high FODMAP foods can be really triggering for IBS symptoms, especially bloating, gas, constipation, loose stools. Okay, so if you have gut issues, you wouldn't add or focus highly on these post antibiotics. To be fair, you should be eating these as part of a balanced diet anyway. Like, this is not anything crazy to be eating. Whereas I feel like asking someone to add in kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, yogurt's pretty straightforward, is a bit of a push to be like, oh yeah, I've taken antibiotics, I should really be doing that. Whereas, yeah, chicory root's a bit of an odd one, but garlic, onion, asparagus, bananas, oats, leeks, like, they're not crazy foods to think, oh, wow, I'm really not eating them, I should eat more of them. So generally, post antibiotics, I would say rotate things through your diet just so that you don't get any immune sensitivity to foods. Make sure you have a high FODMAP diet, as in lots of fermentable fibers, which are going to feed your beneficial flora, lots of bone broth, lots of glycine-rich slow-cooked meats, lots of eggs, lots of animal proteins. Oysters are a good one for your zinc intake. So this is how I would recommend eating, again, dependent on that very first step. Have you removed? Have you microbiome tested? And then also, why did you take the antibiotics in the first place? What were we treating? Was it a UTI? Why are we getting chronic UTI infections? Or was it for skin stuff? Why do we have these skin flares? Or was it something really random, like I went to the dentist and I had to have a root canal and it got infected and da-di-da-di-da? And then question yourself, what was my gut like prior? What is it like now? And lastly, am I getting other new symptoms now? Have I now developed perioral dermatitis or thrush? What does this mean for my microbiome? And how am I going to fix that moving forward? So that's my 2 cents on it. How to heal your gut after antibiotics, how to prevent thrush, how to prevent IBS symptoms and bloating. It is a step-by-step process. It does depend on why you took it, how long you took it, and what your symptom picture was like prior and post. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions around that, please flick me a DM on Instagram, Sheridan_functional nutrition, or just use the link in the podcast episode notes to book a free gut health planning session with me, and we can chat through everything in more detail. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.